On a crisp morning in late autumn, René Fournier stood amidst a cluster of military personnel, his heart pounding as L'Automate Aérien prepared for its maiden voyage. The airfield buzzed with anticipation, the hum of the drone's finely tuned engine filling the air. Its sleek, bird-like frame, painted in muted grays to blend with the clouds, shimmered faintly under the pale sun. René's hands trembled as he tightened the last bolt, his mind consumed by a mixture of pride and dread. When the drone lifted off, its ascent was almost poetic. It glided with a grace René had only dreamed of, a silent specter slicing through the sky. Cheers erupted from the soldiers and engineers around him, but René stood in stunned silence, watching his creation achieve what had once seemed impossible. Hours later, the mood shifted drastically. René was summoned to Colonel Marceau's office, where a grim-faced aide handed him a report. The drone, which had been tasked with a simple reconnaissance mission over German territory, had instead dropped explosives on an ammunition depot, causing a massive explosion that killed dozens. "What is this?" René demanded, slamming the report onto Marceau's desk. His voice was a mix of outrage and disbelief. Marceau didn't flinch. "It's a victory, Fournier. The drone did what it needed to do. I didn't build it for this," René shouted, his fists clenched. "You turned it into a weapon without my consent." The colonel leaned forward, his expression cold and calculating. "War doesn't wait for consent. Your creation has already proven its worth. The generals are pleased, and so am I." René stormed out, his mind reeling. His triumph had been hijacked, twisted into something he had sworn to avoid. As he wandered the cold, dark streets of Paris that night, the weight of his success bore down on him like a leaden sky. The once celebrating dream of flight now felt like chains tightening around his soul. The fallout was immediate. Newspapers celebrated the drone's success, hailing it as a turning point in the war. But behind closed doors, the incident sparked international outrage. Rumors of France's new unmanned weapon reached enemy ears, drawing the attention of spies and foreign agents. René was summoned to a secret council of military officials and government ministers, his reputation and loyalty on the line. The council met in a cavernous, candlelit chamber beneath the Ministry of War, its walls lined with maps and dossiers. At the head of the table sat General Armand Duval, a man whose icy demeanor could freeze even the boldest spirit. "René Fournier," Duval began, his voice echoing off the stone walls, "you've changed the face of warfare. But this is only the beginning." René's protests were met with thinly veiled threats. The council made it clear his continued cooperation was not optional. They wanted more drones, faster, deadlier, and capable of reaching farther into enemy territory. "I built L'Automate Aérien to save lives, not take them," René said, his voice trembling with barely suppressed anger. Duval's reply was as sharp as a blade. "And yet it has taken lives, enemy lives. The war demands sacrifices, Fournier. The question is, are you willing to make them?" Faced with impossible pressure, René reluctantly agreed to continue his work under military oversight. But in his heart, he resolved never to let his designs be fully controlled by others. Back in his laboratory, under the pretense of perfecting his drones, he began working on a secret failsafe, a device that could disable his machines remotely, ensuring they could never be used beyond his intentions. By day, René toiled under the watchful eyes of military officers, his every move scrutinized. By night, he worked in secret, sketching intricate designs for his failsafe in the margins of innocuous technical drawings. He concealed his notes in hollowed-out books and encrypted his plans using a cipher only he and Héloïse could understand. Héloïse, now a trusted confidant in his clandestine efforts, became his lifeline. She smuggled materials and information into the laboratory, her own bravery matching René's determination. But the strain of their deception weighed heavily on them both. One evening, as they worked in hushed whispers, Héloïse confronted him. "René, how much longer can you keep this up? If they find out..." "They won't," René interrupted, though his voice lacked conviction. "They can't. This isn't just about the war anymore, Héloïse. It's about control. If they weaponize my work, there'll be no stopping them." "And what about you?" she asked softly, her eyes searching his. "What will be left of you when this is over?" René had no answer. He was already a shadow of the man he had once been. His dreams of freedom and flight buried under layers of secrecy and guilt. As René's failsafe neared completion, new threats emerged. Lucien Faber, his rival, grew suspicious of René's late-night activities. One evening, Lucien confronted him in the laboratory, his tone dripping with venom. "You think you're the only genius here, Fournier?" Lucien sneered. "You're not untouchable. Watch yourself." The confrontation left René shaken. Later that night, he discovered that one of his encrypted notebooks was missing. The Watchers, too, had resurfaced, leaving another ominous warning. A shadowy figure seen lingering near the laboratory gates, and a note pinned to his door. "Machines can be controlled. Men cannot. Choose wisely, Fournier." When the next prototype took to the skies, René watched it with hollow eyes. It was faster, more agile, and capable of delivering destruction with pinpoint accuracy. The military officials cheered, their vision of a new era of warfare inching closer to reality. But René's failsafe was also operational, a silent rebellion against the forces that sought to exploit his genius. The triumph of L'Automate Aérien had come at a terrible cost. René was now a man caught between worlds, revered as a pioneer, despised by his enemies and mistrusted by those he worked for. His dream of unmanned flight had soared, but the shadow it cast was one he could not escape. And as the drone disappeared into the horizon, René whispered to himself, "One day they'll fly free. But not like this, never like this."